All right, listen up. Most people say they want success, but the truth, they live their lives on autopilot. Broke, stressed, and wondering why nothing changes. The real difference between people who make it and people who don't comes down to a handful of habits. And I'm not talking about the cliché, wake up at 5 a.m. and drink kale smoothies. I'm talking about the real-world habits that separate winners from the rest. So let me break it down for you, one by one. 1. Successful people. Play the long game. When I was younger, I had 2 mates. One of them spent every paycheck on nights out, designer clothes, and the latest gadgets. He looked rich, but he was always skint by the end of the month. The other guy? Quiet, almost boring. He saved, invested, and reinvested. Guess who ended up buying a house in his 20s while the other one was still living with his parents? Here's the difference. Unsuccessful people live for the weekend. Successful people live for the future. If you're not willing to trade short-term pleasure for long-term gain, you'll never break out of the cycle. 2. They treat money like a tool, not a toy. Most people think money is for spending. Successful people know money is for building. When I first started making money, I didn't rush out and buy a flashy car. I invested it back into my business. I drove around in a banger while stacking cash. Meanwhile, my mates laughed at me. "Daksh, you're missing out." Funny thing is, they're still driving around in leased cars, and I bought mine outright, with cash. 3. They learn when others waste time. Here's the brutal truth. Most people waste hours scrolling through TikTok, Netflix, or arguing with strangers online. Successful people, they turn downtime into learning time. I used to listen to business tapes, yes, actual tapes, in my car. Now you've got podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube channels, like this one, that can teach you skills for free. Every hour wasted is an hour someone else is pulling ahead. 4. They surround themselves with the right people. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Back when I was starting out, I had mates who only wanted to drink, party, and moan about their jobs. If I stayed with them, I'd probably still be stacking shelves. Instead, I started hanging out with people who were already ahead of me. Business owners, investors, mentors. At first, I felt like the dumbest guy in the room, but that's exactly what pushed me to level up. If you're always the smartest person in your circle, you're in the wrong circle. 5. They take calculated risks. Notice. I didn't just say risks. Most people hear that and think gambling or crypto pump and dumps. Successful people don't risk it all. They risk enough to move forward. When I started my first business, I didn't remortgage my house or max out credit cards. I started small, tested the waters, and built it brick by brick. People said, "Daksh, you're lucky it worked." No, luck is what you have when preparation meets opportunity. 6. They value discipline. Over motivation. Motivation is like a cheap lighter. Works for a bit, then fizzles out. Discipline? That's the fuel tank that keeps you going. You're not always going to feel like putting in the work. I certainly didn't feel like getting up at 6 a.m. to pack boxes in my early days, but I did it anyway. That's the difference. Unsuccessful people wait to feel ready. Successful people act whether they feel like it or not. 7. They focus on assets, not appearances. This is the one most people mess up. Unsuccessful people want to look rich. They chase designer clothes, flashy watches, new cars. Successful people quietly build assets that nobody sees. Stocks, businesses, real estate. When I bought my first property, I didn't tell anyone. Years later, those same people who laughed at me were asking for jobs. Remember this. Wealth isn't what you see. It's what you don't see. So, there you go. 7 things successful people do differently. You don't need to be smarter, richer, or luckier than anyone else. You just need to make choices most people are too lazy or scared to make. If you actually apply these habits, you won't just look successful. You'll become successful. And the sooner you start, the sooner you'll thank yourself.